Excellent. So welcome everybody. Episode 3 of Real Talk in real estate investing. And we're so excited to talk to our guest today, François Lanthier, who is coming to us from Ottawa. And he's going to tell us a little bit more about his journey and what brought him here. So Leanne has a little bit more background on François than I do. So Leanne, how about you introduce our guest and let us know what we're in for today?
Actually, I'm going to delegate Mike to introduce François.
I'm such a big fan. I know all of his history. So
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah. So we had the pleasure of meeting François through an investing group that we were in. Going back, could be actually 2 years. I bet you 2 years in April.
Yeah.
When we originally met, and actually he welcomed us into the club, and he sent out an inquiry. He wanted to connect, and at first we still were kind of learning the ropes in that investor world, and everybody's open and wants to meet and share ideas. And we met with him and Jennifer, and they just welcomed us in with open arms. They shared a lot of information with us, and we really connected. It seems like we had a lot of things in common. We had a couple children around the same age, and François was still working full time then, but he's working towards transitioning out. And then we always stayed connected, and we found that over time, we used to always laugh and say, what's François doing next? And they always seemed like they were about 6 or 8 months ahead of us. And, we would talk and we would catch up all the time. And, of course, now we're excited to have François on our show today. And he can talk about his, journey over the last couple of years, and how he's been able to transition into a full-time investor, which a lot of us have, similar goals, and how he's been able to do it.
Yes. Wow. Well, thank you so much. Anyway, I'm humbled to hear all this, and this is great. And it feels strange too to be on the other side of the mic, or the guest instead of the interview. Yeah, the other mic. So, yeah, for me, it started out in a funny way. So my wife and I, we studied interior design. That's our background. So we graduated from college in 2001. So now I'm dating myself. But anyway, 2001, there was no work in southwestern Ontario, where we used to live, London. It was very hard. So I had to take on 2-3 jobs, and we would buy ugly houses with blue tubs and toilets and pink walls, and we fixed them up. We did live-in flips. So I'd say it's been almost 20 years, really, but very slow, like 2 years, 3 years. Then we'd go on to the next house. We've owned, I think we're at house number 9 now, like just our principal residence, plus all kinds of other things. But in 2015, we sold one of these slow flips in Quebec City. And in Quebec, it's very different. You don't find out about the mortgage penalty until the day of closing. So we found out we had quite a hefty penalty. And anyway, it was hard to get the information. And we found out it was actually a portable mortgage. So we're like, we need to buy something else. I don't want to pay that penalty. So we bought a condo, and my mom was my first tenant. So I always joke about that. Getting your mom as your first tenant can be fun or stressful. So mine was kind of both. So that was the first one. And then we're like, wow, this is easy. You qualify for another mortgage. I thought you could only get one. And then we got another property that's all in Eastern Ontario. So we were back in Hawkesbury, a small town between Ottawa and Montreal on the Ontario side. That's where I grew up and where mom lives. And then we bought in Cornwall, another small city along the 401 near the US border, Ontario and Quebec. Very undervalued, underpriced. So that was great. Super cheap duplex for $110,000 we paid. And it cash flowed like crazy. Sorry?
Did it have windows?
Yes, actually it was fully renovated, fireproof, brand new siding, newer kitchens, bathrooms. It was a steal, and the tenants were good. So we're like, wow, this is fun. Let's buy another one. So for Jennifer's birthday, we bought a second one. That one was nasty. It was gross, old carpet and stuff. So she cried for her birthday, but that was her present. And then we were kind of tapped out. So now we're at like 4 properties, our house plus 3 rentals. And and I didn't have a big salary or anything. And Jennifer, I'm not sure what she was doing. Oh yeah, she was working remotely back then for a company from Quebec City. So yeah, it just became tricky. So now we're like, okay, other people are buying and buying, and obviously they're not laundering money. Like something's happening. What can we do to get more properties? So that's when we joined a mentoring program, and I met Mike and Leanne. And then I went all in. Like I went crazy with networking, and we started expanding to New Brunswick, where we got several properties, and then in the US, and now Costa Rica and Alberta, and more in Ontario. So we ended up buying in Ottawa a few properties, and then a cottage, vacation home. It just kind of spiraled out of control. So it was fun.
That's amazing. And I mean, I love the beginning of your story, right? And I think we've all got that similarity between us is we were all ready to go and get started. And then all of a sudden realized like we're done, right? We're tapped out.
Yeah.
There's more money. And we joined a mentoring program. And that I think we all have that story. Stefan and I were a little bit behind you guys. We joined a little bit later, not much, but it's funny, right? How we're all in the same boat. We were all experiencing the same kind of stumbling block, and we all went to the same place to fix it.
Yes.
Right.
And for me, most of the learning actually did not come from the mentoring. So that's kind of the sad part. I enjoyed it a lot for the networking, but the actual content and learning I found elsewhere, and I really expanded beyond that. So yes, it was helpful. It gave me confidence to bid on larger properties. So more commercial, something I was not really into before that. But otherwise, no, I found the most came from meeting other investors and learning about their journey, networking. So, my involvement with the Right Club, that really gave me a boost, like a major boost. And that's what I recommend everybody. So mentoring is awesome. And I coach people, and I'm kind of not helping myself. But the biggest thing is taking action. And a lot of people just consume. And they hop from mentoring to mentoring. I'm like, okay, stop it. Just buy something, do it, figure it out. And some of it you will learn the hard way, but you'll get better at it. It's just like going to the gym. You can hire 1 million coaches, but if you don't lift weights or do anything, it's not going to change. So for me, I think that's the biggest thing is really taking action, pushing boundaries, and meeting people and connecting with people and helping others. I'd say that's been the biggest help is actually helping others, which seems counterintuitive. Even giving up deals, different things I've done, I think has been the most helpful.
And
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and you really went on a different path than what I know Mike and myself and Jen and Steff have gone, that you actually went down and did a lot of joint ventures. So can you tell us a little bit more about how that has come about and has evolved in your business?
Yes. So I accused people of binge watching and binge taking all kinds of mentoring programs. Well, I was very guilty of that as well. So I joined Cashflow Tribe. I was doing stuff with Rain and the Right Club and so on and so forth. Ottawa, there's Oreo. That's a local meetup that's quite big. And then I kept hearing joint ventures, and people partnering for success. Helping others along the way. And then all my connections started reaching out to me. They said, I have money and I like what you're doing, but I don't have time to do it. I don't get it. Or I have credit and I have money. I'm like, well, maybe I'm onto something here. So let's see what we can do. And Jennifer and I, we always do things as a team. We started doing a 1-page document and talking to people. Here's a sample deal we've done. What if we found something similar and did it all together? And that just opened a door to, wow, possibilities are endless. Some people became private lenders became joint venture partners, or a mix of both. It just, you can tell like people wanted to participate, and I've met busy professionals that work 80-hour work weeks. So they're like, we got tons of money, but no time to do any of this stuff. So if we can do it with you, we'll share the profit. And I know to some people sharing sounds bad. I'm all about sharing. Like that's why I started my own podcast. And I think that's kind of why you guys are doing this as well. When you're giving back, what you get in return is like 10 folds, 100 folds, not 10x, 100x. So joint ventures are similar as well. You do have to be careful and pick your partner wisely, because it could go the other way as well, like people just taking and not giving. But once you have the right people, it's amazing what you can do.
I love that. I really do.
Yeah, no, it's fabulous to hear that. And again, right, so many people that you hear, so many people that say they want to get into real estate but don't know when, or they're too busy, or they don't have time. And I think that's where that, that joint venture can bring that together and create that win-win for everybody, to help us all excel. Yeah. So
I know Stefan and I have run into a couple of times in deals that we've done with private lenders. Like you said, they're busy, they're making a lot of money, they don't have time. A lot of them don't know and are afraid and don't want that risk or responsibility of being an owner or a landlord, and don't understand that remote property management can work and all of those little pieces, and they've got a pot of cash that they'd love to be able to invest in a real estate market because they see the value in it and they see the market's growing, and they just don't want the responsibility of it all at once and know how to break it down into smaller pieces. So it fits really well. You know what I mean? Like for us, we've never done a joint venture, but we've used private lenders in our deals a couple of times now. And we've created situations like you and Jen have done, right? You kind of make a little sheet of, this is a sample of what we've done, and this is kind of what we're working on now. This is our exit strategies. This is what kind of cash flow, can come from the deal. This is how we're going to pay you back. And all of a sudden, you have a couple of people that all of a sudden are super interested. And
they call you and say, hey, I have money, don't forget about me. I love it.
And that's where you get to. And that's the exciting part, right? Because it's all about growing and sharing. And we're big believers, and we know Mike and Leanne are too. And I think that's part of what connected us. And now it's easy to see that you and Jen are on the same page as we are as well, right? What you put out there comes back to you in 100 different ways, right? So I know that for us was really important, and being able to share and to help other people learn and grow with us. That grows us just as easily as growing our own portfolio if we're growing other people at the same time.
And I love a quote I heard about this. So this was actually one of my first interviews on my own podcast with the JV Queen, Mandy Branham. So she said, when I get to the top, I don't want to be alone. Or when I'm on a yacht, it's very boring to be alone. You want to bring everybody on that boat. So that's my goal too. And seriously, if you need help, if you have all these people you've been helping out along the way, I've got hundreds of people I can call for assistance pretty much anywhere in Canada, USA now, and Costa Rica, slowly in Guanacaste province. If you go beyond that, I have no contacts there. But it's so nice. Wherever you are, people. So my wife, like I mentioned, is from the London, Ontario area. So we often go down the 401. And we have to make 1 million stops. Like there's people that want to see us everywhere. I'm like, this is crazy. We're stopping every 50 kilometers. There's people we know, and it's nice to have that problem. Like it's a good thing.
Should we ask you for your autograph now?
No, I'm not. Maybe in the future. No, I don't see myself like that.
I think that's great though, because that just speaks to what you're putting out there. You know what I mean? And all of these people wouldn't want to stop and have a coffee and a visit and all of those kinds of things if you weren't putting valuable stuff out there. So we think that's great. And that's why we're so happy to chat. And I love the backstory, right? I love where you came from, and that you lived in lots of houses with blue bathtubs and pink walls and all of those kinds of things.
And the kids know they're expert at packing, and they're always ready. Our thing, anything we buy needs to be very liquid. So that's my golden rule. Anything I buy, even my personal residence, is it easy to sell if we need to get out? If things get too scary, I'm in Ottawa at the time of this recording. There's the truckers that came into town and are still here. Where I am, it doesn't affect me. But to some people, that creates a lot of fear. Well, I could sell my house and move.
Right.
And it would sell quickly because I bought right as well. So that's something for everybody listening. It's very important. Whatever you buy, investment or principal residence, always have that exit strategy. Even with your own house, you never know what's going to happen, where opportunities are, or if you want to move to Florida permanently or something.
Yeah. So actually, it leads us into a good point and a good question to ask. Lots of us on social media will talk about the positive, right? But you're starting to bring up a little bit. Sometimes there is some negative stuff going on.
Oh yeah, lots.
What are some of the biggest hurdles and roadblocks that you guys have had, and especially being in joint ventures? I'm sure when you, me and Leanne do a lot of deals, together. We do everything together, and sometimes we have some conflict. But I could just imagine, when you bring somebody else into the picture, what kind of situations can be created there, or some big challenges that you've had.
Yeah, like our very first joint venture, that's going back not that long ago, June 2020. We had an awesome deal, and our partner did like normal. So she qualified for the mortgage, put in all the money. Everything was going great. Crazy cash flow, like almost $4,000 a month in our pocket.
Wow.
And the deal was not good enough for that person. She wanted out after 6 months. And I'm like, well, this is crazy. This is like a ton of money. So anyway, we had to replace our partner, and we did. So the person was nice enough to give us time to look for someone else. We could have sold the deal as well. Again, it was very liquid. We still would have made money, but the cash flow was amazing, and that was our best deal. And the person wanted out for personal reasons, so that was stressful. So for months we were looking for a partner, and it's not easy to find a new joint venture partner in an existing deal, because now the first person wants out, wants profit, of course. So now you need to sell it at a higher price. The new person coming in is getting not so good of a deal anymore. Us as well, the cash flow goes down. So it's important to pick your partners wisely. That's huge. The other thing is dealing with tenants in Ontario. So this summer we did a cleanup and we sold all our Ontario properties except for one and our principal residence. That's over. Sorry, I know a lot of people do well. I just don't believe in giving into that. So I invest where you can evict tenants and you can have a relationship with your tenants as well. So if you renovate, you can increase rent however much you want, because property taxes go up like however much the city wants it to. So it goes both ways. So that's where I invest. For partners, yeah, that can create friction as well. Like if you have a tenant that's not paying, that becomes very stressful. So that's another reason, if you're doing a joint venture, pick a market very wisely, because now you're accountable for your own investment and someone else's money. Even private lenders, I mean, that's OPM. Their responsibility is at a different level than your own money.
Right. And we've had that conversation many times.
Yes.
Right. About being in deals with other people's money. And if things go wrong, how do you pay that investor back? Because that's the priority, right?
Because who knows who, like I have some private lenders, it's actually their kids' money. So it's their education fund. I'm like, well, if I lose it, they're not going to university and they're going to hate me forever.
It's a lot of pressure though. It really is. And I know for us at the beginning, before our first deal where we were using someone else's money, it was like, oh my gosh. So can we triple make sure that, even in worst case scenario, the investor gets paid back first, right? And whatever gets left in the deal is our own, and we'll eat that a little bit and we'll kind of figure that out down the road. But that investor for us is the priority, right? And whether they're using their kids' education money or a credit line or an RRSP or whatever, that's still, you know what I mean? We try to risk manage the best we can to ensure that regardless of what happens, that investor gets paid out in full, on time, no questions asked.
Totally. And I've done like crazy things like going to Moncton during the pandemic when you weren't really allowed. And I painted apartments to save a deal because, again, the partner had some issues financially. So our budget was reduced quite a bit. So I became the painter. And I mean, you have to do what you have to do to make it happen. This is a business. Just like if you own a restaurant or a store and your employees call in sick, well, guess who's going in? You're going in, you're doing the dishes. So it's the same for real estate. If you need to paint or shovel or mow the lawn, you do it. So I mean, it's not ideal. You don't want it long term, but it's got to be done.
As a Band-Aid for sure. And that's the reality of making it a business, right?
Totally.
Is you need to be responsible for that, and any budget issues or things that aren't getting done that need to be done to make a deal come together, is you're doing that on your own, whether you're going, like you said, to another market in a pandemic, or you're juggling around your own finances to make sure that there's money to pay out who needs to get paid out. No, for sure.
So that's so we talked about roadblocks. Now let's talk about, what are some successes you're most proud of that you've, in this journey that you're on? What have you been most proud of?
Most proud of, that's a tough one. First, I love the negative stuff, unfortunately.
It's so easy to talk about it, right?
It is way easier.
And it makes for much more interesting conversation when the things go wrong. But you've had great successes, right? Like your portfolio is doing wonderful things that you probably didn't even realize it could do 5 years ago, right? And
yeah. No. So one big thing, I guess, is some mistakes. So like this summer, if you know my story, I moved to New Brunswick and I came back to Ontario, and I kept that house and I bought another house here. That was a bit of a mistake, but I am proud because I bought right. I bought, again, a property that's easy to sell, self-finances. And it's actually a good, fairly cash flowing property. I mean, it's not the top because it was supposed to be my own house. So I picked it slightly differently. But I'm very proud that we survived all that craziness and moving 3 times in 6 weeks. That was a lot of fun.
I can't even imagine.
But also buying out of country. So I love that. So in the US, I haven't done too much yet, but I'm really excited about the future there. Costa Rica as well, I think it's going to be amazing. Just having the variety of currency and properties as well in other areas, learning about those cultures. It's just, it's something I like about blending lifestyle and business as well. Make it fun.
Yeah, good.
I think that's great.
You just talked about, moving and family adjustments, and that kind of brings up, I think we talked briefly about a lot of us have, kids around the same age, and, how do you involve your family? How do you involve Jennifer, and how do you involve the kids, and how are they, how do they look at, this real estate adventure, and, you're on the side from the packing and unpacking, are they supportive, and, do you get them involved?
Yes. So my kids are 16 and 18, and they're quite involved. So a lot of summers they've been with us painting. They're excellent at painting apartments and cleaning and ripping out old carpet. They're awesome. Child labor is the best. Make sure you pay them. But it's really good, and they learn a lot from it. But now they've told us very clearly that they're staying in Ottawa. Like, even if we leave, they're staying. They're keeping the house, whatever. So I'm like, well, okay, you can rent it Airbnb, some bedrooms, and make it work. So they're interested, but at that age, they're now starting to kind of build their own life slowly with different jobs and things. So I think they'll circle back in the future. My son is looking into Addy, an investment app. Since he turned 18, he can invest some of his funds there. With only $1, you can become an investor. So up to $1,500, then you're cut off. You need to bid on several projects, but there's great ways for teenagers to invest in real estate or be involved. And Jennifer, she's always in the background looking at deals with me and keeping me focused as well, because I do get the shiny penny syndrome. So she keeps me focused and down to business, especially being job free. It's easy to be scattered and all over the place. So it's good that she keeps me. Also, my team, I have my virtual assistants that keep me organized and on the ball for many things. So.
No, and I think that's great. And we've all kind of talked about different ways that we're bringing our kids into kind of what we're doing and creating those conversations and trying to let them know that there's opportunities there and there's options, you know what I mean, as they grow and as they go, that this is a great way that they can stay diversified, You know what I mean?
Yes.
And still continue to pursue what they want to pursue, whether it's at school or in the workforce or whatever, but always have access to these kinds of conversations and the kinds of learning that we kind of try to create at the supper table, to let them know that this is an opportunity and an option as well. And I know Mike and Leanne have had that conversation with their kids, and we have too. And I love that your kids are kind of looking at things from the same perspective as well, even though real estate's a huge game, right? And you can do it 100 different ways and make it work, which is
That's
yeah.
it. Could be vacation rentals, could be long-term rentals, could be commercial, mixed use, industrial distribution, could be self-storage. I was looking at self-storage the other day. I'm like, this looks interesting. But have you thought about all the horror movies and shows? They always show self-storage and dead bodies. I'm like, I don't know if I want to deal with that.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh,
Yeah.
but so true. Oh no, I love this conversation, and I love how you've grown it, and you treat it as a business, and it's your job, and you organize yourself accordingly, and you're growing like crazy as a result. And I think that's wonderful. So you love talking about the negative, right? Because it makes for a more interesting story when things go right. So what's the biggest hurdle that you've had? Like, what's your biggest bad story? If we can ask. I mean, I know that some are really bad and you might not want to share, and that's totally okay. But like, can you think of like the one thing that's just gone so wrong that it just kind of eclipses everything else?
I wouldn't say it eclipsed everything else, but it went wrong, and then Jennifer and I were able to correct it. So it was a joint venture. We found this awesome sixplex in Moncton, New Brunswick. Looked amazing, off market, all that stuff. But it was during the height of the pandemic, so we weren't really able to go there. And then we found a joint venture partner, had the money. Then we made the offer on the property. Our inspector told us everything was good. We looked at pictures, it looked good. Then we got possession of the place, and no, leaky roof, mold problems, everything went wrong. Then our joint venture partner decided he wanted interest on his money, and anyway, started kind of threatening us, and just went really sour. So the building was a dud. The joint venture partner, it just became complicated. It's not what we had discussed. It just kind of went a different direction. So what we ended up doing is fixing it up, and it became a flip. So all at once, we moved on from that joint venture partner and that building, and we left a leaky roof to the next investor. Sorry, whoever bought it. But anyway, I hope he did his due diligence. So that could have gone wrong. And the tenants that were there were just, just big word of advice. If ever you're considering a property and you can't see certain units because tenants don't want to let you in, don't buy it. Sorry, it's not worth it.
I know.
It's
great advice.
You want good tenants, good everything. Like if you're getting bad vibes, just walk away. So I've learned that the hard way, but it turned out okay in the end.
And Mike and I had that as well. We were looking at a triplex, and the same thing. And the owner said, you can go in each of the other units, but you cannot go into this one unit. And it's like, why? Well, they're a hoarder, they're this or that. And it's like, okay, that's enough. I'm walked away. Like just, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah. And then again, it's those, we toured the other two, and you always have that thought in the back of your mind, and ended up, I love talking, right. And connecting. And so probably the same as you. And, you just start asking those other tenants, oh, how's everything? And they're like, and you kind of talk about, is there any challenges with that tenant? And then a lot of times they'll just open right up. And it's, I tell you, that building sold like that. But, we talked to the other tenants, and, we got a good history of, what was going on. And, if you can't see a unit, how, it makes it a challenge to buy. And if you can't even talk to the other tenants. So we were lucky that we were able to talk to them, and it really steered us clear of that property. So
no, seriously. And if you added a joint venture partner and things, it's just not a good mix.
That makes it challenging right off the hop. And that's one of those things you probably could only learn that the hard way.
Pretty much, because like joint venture partners, you're supposed to meet with those people for months or years before you work with them, which was the case. But you learn how people work when you're working with them. So sometimes it's too late. It ended positively. It's just not, it was better that way.
Great.
That's good. So we're going to move on now to our lightning round questions.
Cool.
So very quick questions. Each of us are going to ask you 2 questions. And just first thing out of here, like that pops into your mind, what is your answer? So I'll go first. What are 3 things you can't live without?
My phone. Walking. So I have to move all the time. And number 3, my wife.
That's
right there.
Good answer.
Those are great answers.
If you could go back in time, what's one thing you would change about your journey?
Oh, I would start this sooner, but I know everybody said that.
Mhm.
Start this sooner. And I'd convince my parents to do it. My parents were also investors, but they bought a hotel instead of actual real estate. And they bought it in 1990, which was a bad year. So it didn't go well. But I would convince them because they had massive plans. And
Great. Okay. So in your journey, who's been the most inspirational to you so far?
Daniel Saint-Jean from the Right Club. So amazing man. Wow. He's 71. I'm sorry, I'm revealing his age. 71. You'd swear he's in like mid 50s, like with his energy level. It's insane. And he always keeps going no matter what. Like there's challenges, and he's always helpful, and he's super busy, but always has time for people when he can.
Yeah. When I got to say too, I've watched, try to watch as much as I can of the Right Club, and he's always just like an open book and just offering, right? Like sharing like all of his success and how he's done everything. And it's just the total opposite of it, scarcity mindset. He just like, shares everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All of it, good and bad.
That's wonderful.
So what keeps you motivated on this journey?
My kids' future. So I want them to be financially independent at a young age. I don't want them to live 2001 like I did, when there is no work and you're competing for a minimum wage job with 10 other people. It was very hard. And now you have these student loans because your school counselor said, oh yeah, you should go there, it's going to be amazing. And you end up with like a minimum wage job. And anyway, and you have to go back to school 3 times until you finally find something that works, and you end up in real estate. So I want them to have that financial freedom and do passion projects. So even if their work does not pay, then you can still live. So that keeps me going.
Oh, that's great.
So I got a really hard one for you. What's your favorite wine?
That's a tough one. Wow. The one that you can drink. That's my favorite wine.
I love it.
Yeah.
How about free?
Okay. Sorry.
How about free?
Free? No, I've had some really bad free wine this summer.
Okay.
Oh man, it was like tasting glue or something. I don't know. Yeah, not good.
I'll recommend that one. Okay, so because I'm a big reader and I like to read whatever I can get my hands on, what's your favorite book, Francois? It can be related to real estate. It might not be, but just a book that you really enjoy to read and what you took away from it.
Oh, the book of Essentialism by Greg McKeown. I can't say his last name. Amazing. Read it. It's going to change your life. You're going to throw everything out. Which I did this summer. We got rid of almost everything using those principles. And I'm ready now. If the place burned down, I'm attached to people, not objects. And I loved little collectibles and all kinds of junk. Now I can get rid of anything, and it doesn't matter. It's just objects. And it also focuses on other things. What is essential, like to your life and to your business and all of that. So it's an amazing book. Very short read.
Thank you so much for that. And it's true. And I think we all could take some lessons from learning to live with less stuff, right? Especially when your kids are still growing like ours are. And it seems like the older they get, the more stuff they accumulate. And there's been many nights that we've kind of looked around and figuring we're living in a life of stuff that we could definitely live without and do just fine.
And even your real estate portfolio, there's stuff you might need to get rid of. This property is not performing as well. I don't need this headache anymore. I can give it to someone else. And it applies to everything.
No,
Food,
that's great.
everything.
I'm marking that book down for sure. Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
Mike, Leanne, anything else before we kind of start to wrap it up?
I think one of the biggest things is, François, how do people get in touch with you?
Yes. How do they find you, François? And you're very social media friendly, which I love. I mean, we can find you all over the place.
We have 15 minutes, so François can list his social media.
Wow. Okay, that's gonna be a while. So Instagram, wine and real estate, wine_and_real_estate. That's the best way. I used to have another beautiful account that was hacked and I gave it up. So Essentialism, there you go. I let it go. You can find me, François Lanthier, on LinkedIn. I'm quite active there. I've been on LinkedIn since 2009, I think. So quite a long time. Facebook, under my name or my company, FL Homes Corp. FL for Famille Lanthier or Lanthier family in French. Not my name. It's not my initials. I'm not that self-centered. YouTube as well. TikTok. I suck at TikTok, but I'm there anyway. And on the Right Club, therightclub.com. That's it. I'd love to chat with people. I love to help if I can and hopefully help you get rid of things.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's wonderful. And grow our portfolio at the same time with properties that matter and make sense.
That's it. You're making space for what you really want, getting rid of stuff you don't need and making space for what you really want to attract. So it's kind of the law of attraction, but on speed.
Oh, I think that's amazing. Well, you know what? Thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are, and we really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with us. And I loved your story. I had told Mike and Leanne last week, I was so excited to hear it because I didn't know your backstory from all of the conversations that we've had. I'd never had the opportunity to hear where you came from and how you started. So for me, this was wonderful. And again, I thank you. And I look forward to bringing more real talk about real estate to everybody who's watching and listening. And I am already excited for the next episode. So thanks again, everyone. And I wish you a great day.
Thank you.